Forensic toxicology. Well, we're going to focus on the forensic toxicology of alcohol in this lecture. Maybe another lecture would include drugs and poisons, but this one will focus on alcohol. Forensic toxicology, that is the study of the body and chemicals found in the body, drugs, alcohol, poisons, and stuff like that, for forensic purposes. Often autopsies are done where they take a sample of the body and they analyze it for drugs, alcohol, or whatever. So that's forensic toxicology. If it has to do with the body, and you're analyzing it in a forensic lab, it's forensic toxicology. So what does the forensic toxicologist do? Well, he examines the body, as mentioned for the definition, or the way we're going to define forensic toxicology. If it's part of the body, you can analyze it for various substances. It is forensic toxicology. Thing is, when we're talking about drugs and poisons, they're often found in small amounts, trace amounts. Not easy to find them, but that's the job of the forensic toxicologist. And it's to their credit that even though it's not hard to find, they do a good job. In addition to the problem of finding the tiny amounts, the chemicals that get in the body get changed by the body, and they've got to find not just the chemicals. They might be able to have to find the byproducts or the end products of the changed drugs or chemicals that they're looking for. It's done not just on cadavers; it's done on live people also, like blood tests or even breath tests, as we can hopefully see soon. Well, mentioned before was that we're going to be focusing on alcohol. It's a drug. It's the most common drug. It's legal, but it causes a lot of problems, and I think we all know that. Problems with the law, that is. So we have to know what happens to alcohol after people ingest it. Okay, well, you swallow it. It doesn't disappear, even though you might think it does. It goes down the esophagus, so it's commonly called the food pipe. This leads directly to the stomach. So we're talking about, probably less than a minute it'll get to the stomach. In the stomach is lined with special villi that will absorb various nutrients and water or other liquids. Again, that's more complicated. You can look at biology. They get more in depth as to what gets absorbed, what doesn't, and how. But anyway, the alcohol, 20% of them is absorbed while still in the stomach. It goes from there right to the bloodstream. After that, it goes to the small intestine. It just flows right into there, right to the small intestine. And from there, again, the small intestine is capable of absorbing things through its lining. And here, most of the alcohol gets absorbed from the small intestine. At this point, it's pretty much gone. 20%, 80%, 100%. Well, anyway, whatever's left might be able to get through the large intestine. But that's where it goes after that. This stuff just flows right through. Alcohol is not really digested, it just flows right through the body. Your body cannot utilize it as it is. As mentioned, it's a drug. Your body really wants to get rid of this stuff. Water, similarly, is not digested either. It just slips right through the intestinal lining. Actually, water, a lot of it gets absorbed through the large intestine, but alcohol gets absorbed, slips right through the intestinal lining into the veins. The capillaries on the veins, even better than water. But it all slips through. So it does not get digested with any acids or anything like that. It just slips right wherever it has to go, and the body tries to do whatever it can to flush it out because the body does not want it. What gets rid of it is the liver. Liver changes it to acetaldehyde and acetic acid, which can actually be used by the body, I think. And whatever's left goes to the kidneys, that's what kidneys are designed to do. It flushes it out together with the urine. It gets to the lungs, where alcohol is relatively volatile, and it can actually get into the lungs and get breathed out because it evaporates there. It gets to the skin, where it sweats out. People they eliminate wastes through the skin also, not much, but some. This is, by the way, is why people go to the bathroom a lot more in the winter than in the summer. In the summer, we sweat more, and a lot of some of the wastes come out that way. People who swim a lot, they go to the pool a lot, where the cool water's all over the place. They go to the bathroom more than people who would be running around outside. Anyway, just for you to know. Okay, it goes to the skin, and then it goes to the brain, of course, which again, the alcohol changes the brain and makes people drunk, high, whatever it does, but it gets to the brain too. That's where alcohol goes. We'll talk about what alcohol does, how alcohol gets through the body more in detail a little bit later. This is the basic idea. It goes in through the stomach, gets into the veins, goes to the heart, gets pumped all over the place, including the brain, but it goes out when this is the liver, and the liver changes it using something called alcohol dehydrogenase. There may be some other ways it changes the alcohol. Incidentally, I've heard that some people of the Far East, not all of them, but it's more common among them, that they actually lack this alcohol dehydrogenase. And they can get severely drunk after drinking just like a beer. Just to be warned, be careful with what you drink. You should know how much it takes before you lose your intelligence via the alcohol. Anyway, so the liver, it uses enzymes to change the alcohol to something that's a little bit more useful and less harmful. And the kidneys, if they get their hands on it, again, kidneys, the job of the kidneys is to absorb some poisons and that your body naturally produces, and even this alcohol, and send it right to the bladder where it fills with water and gets flushed out. How is alcohol measured? Meaning for legal purposes. We're talking about the person drinks, let's say, a few drops of whiskey. It's not going to hurt anybody, so it doesn't bother anybody. The body can handle it. Doesn't change the brain enough to warrant any legal action. So, but how is it legally measured so that you know that the person is doing something illegal? Let's say he's driving a car and the alcohol is too much in his bloodstream or in his brain mainly. So how do you know? What are the measures that are used? Well, the use is the blood alcohol content, the BAC sometimes. That's the mass of alcohol per volume times 100%. Mass is measured in grams, volume in milliliters. So, or weight could be, it'd be weight instead of mass over volume. For our purposes, we'll assume that they're the same. So it's we'll just use grams per milliliter, but it's times 100%. So a person claims that his device said, "Oh, the blood alcohol content is 0.1." That really means 0.1 grams milliliters times percent, which means it's after you multiplied it by 100, you get the 0.1. In reality, it's 0.001 grams of alcohol in 1 milliliter of blood. So that's what 0.1, a BAC of 0.1 is. 0.1 grams per milliliter percent, which is really 0.001 grams of alcohol per milliliter of blood. In the chemistry world, they use other units of concentration, but for the legal purposes, we use the BAC, we use these units. So we should know what these units are, get a feel for the number. You're not going to get a BAC of 52 or something like that. The numbers are generally less than 1. I don't know. I think there were cases of people that had more than 1, but I don't think you have to worry too much about that. Anyway, legally speaking, the United States, the states, have decided more or less that any alcohol concentration of larger than 0.08 is considered too impaired to drive a vehicle. I think if it's for commercial purposes, a little bit less. I think 0.06. Again, this can actually depend on the states, not just the federal government. In any event, for our purposes, past 0.08, a BAC of 0.08, which means 0.0008